All right, hello everybody. I have a short one for you this week. I was looking through Weird Tales and I found another really good short story, actually. This story is called The Two Men Who Murdered Each Other, and it starts on page 23 of Weird Tales, Volume 2, Number 1. That's the July-August issue from 1923. It's written by Valma Clark, who wrote a number of short stories for the pulp magazines in her time, and also at least two longer works. I found that she had written at least two, it looks like novels. Now, in this story, we have what Weird Tales called the tragic story of a Greek vase told in a masterly way, and that is a very accurate description of this story. It's solidly developed for a story that fits into only 9 of Weird Tales' admittedly fairly dense pages, but I mean, it's a pretty well done job, honestly. What it is, and since this is a short story, we won't go into a spoiler section necessarily. We'll just give a rather spoiler-free plot synopsis, but it's the story of an antique-loving young man who befriends an old hermit. He basically goes to a store and finds this thing that's at the store being sold, and it's painted very beautifully. And he says, "Well, I want one of these, but I would like I would like to make this thing that you're buying here, which I think they say is supposed to be a doorstop or something." He's like, "It's way too beautifully painted to use as a doorstop. I'll use it as a bookend, but I need another one." So they tell him where to find this old hermit who painted the thing, and he goes over there and talks to him. This old hermit invites him in and says, "Yeah, I'll make another one of these for you. I'll paint it and everything. Let me know where you live and all that stuff, and I'll have it sent to you." But what happens is that a sandstorm shows up, and it forces them to kind of take refuge in the old hermit's house. Now, while there, the old hermit ends up telling the POV character a story about how a long time ago he was actually a scholar, working on learning how different ancient art types were kind of like timed in history, right? When did this start? When did this end? Kind of thing. When did the Greeks start painting their vases in this style, and so on? And as a result of some stuff that's in this story that this guy says, he basically believes that he murdered a man for the sake of half of a Greek vase. Now, this vase, the hermit says, it was historically significant in showing the timing of a particular development in Greek pottery, which was believed to be much later than the evidence of this vase actually shows, and an element of Greek painting as well. His conflict with another man who had the other half of this vase resulted, and this other man who had this other half of the vase wanted to basically keep it for himself as a personal collectible. They quarreled, and it ended up with them basically trying to figure out how to deal with this problem, and the solution came when they were effectively shipwrecked. And there's a story of adventure and the shipwreck, and the old hermit left the selfish collector for dead. When he was rescued, he vowed himself, in guilt to this life of hermitage that he's currently living, and gave up completely on his scholarly pursuits. He has he's heard nothing or read nothing, seen nothing about the progress of of mankind's understanding of ancient Greek pottery and painting for something like 30 years. The POV character hears this story and, talks with the hermit, and eventually, when the sandstorm abates at night, he moves on. And, as the title suggests, he kind of discovers what the title describes, that there's another man in a similar situation. And, you're based on the title, you're kind of expecting this, having seen this part of the story. But the tragic story, as Weird Tales notes, actually has a very, very interesting twist ending that you might not have expected. This story is written in a beautiful, gently flowing, kind of timeless style. Even though it was published in 1923, it is absolutely simple and transparently easy to read today. There are details provided, as you would expect, but they're not overdone. There's no super long paragraphs of describing this or that. Things are functional, but, very well done in general. One of the things we get to see in this particular story is the author Valma Clark's knowledge of ancient Greek art and mythology, which shines through beautifully in this story. The plot is simple and believable, but it does have a few unexpected moves, which is why I'm kind of ending my synopsis where I did. Since the story is only 9 pages long, it's not really that lengthy a read, honestly. It is a timeless story of two men with different values who are thrown against each other by circumstance, and, it moves in a way that you partly expect and partly don't. The Old Hermit is written in a way that is both endearing and pitiful. He's given up everything because of his belief that he killed this man for the sake of a vase. The POV character is sociable and sympathetic. He doesn't really have a whole lot of character per se, but he is a good lens through which to see the story unfold, because he's not a hermit, he's not a scholar, but he does know enough about Greek pottery and painting to understand that this man's story is something very important, and that the developments also could be very important as well. Right? Finding a certain type of vase painted a certain way in a certain place could actually advance greatly man's understanding of, who developed a certain style or method of painting, when, basically. It's a very interesting scholarly question. The story of the past, as narrated by the Old Hermit, is both gripping and adventurous. It's very fun to read. And, it has a great rising tension that breaks exactly when you would expect it to. And the ending, which, again, I'm not going to spoil, is absolutely worth reading, not only because of the way that things get tied up. The particular, flow of events that leads to the conclusion of this story is very, very good and interesting to read. It is surprisingly good at developing characters given very limited space in this story. The setting is well handled without being overly wordy or flowery. You won't find yourself getting bored at any point in this short story. Tension rises when it should, falls when it should. Everything feels good when you read this story. All in all, it is a fascinating read, and I think it is definitely worth a look if you like the stuff in Weird Tales and you want to see a good Weird Tale story. So yeah, The Two Men Who Murdered Each Other. Page 23 of Weird Tales, Volume 2, Number 1, July-August 1923, by Valma Clark. And give it a look if you have a chance, if it sounds at all interesting to you. I hope you will enjoy the ending as much as I did. It is a unique and interesting ending that, the description of the story from Weird Tales absolutely perfectly encapsulates. So, yeah, that's what I got for you for today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time with who knows what I'll figure out what to do next. Anyway, see you later.